Am I the a-hole for not giving my ex-husband back his money? My ex-husband cheated on me 5 years ago, and I found out when he texted me instead of her. That ended our marriage, but the divorce was amicable. I told him that I couldn't forgive him, and he said he was sorry, and we moved on. By that time, he had worked a small fortune, a company, 3 commercial properties, and a lake house. I got half of everything, and I am a silent partner in his company, getting returns twice a year. As an apology, he also gave me our apartment and lake house. It goes without saying that I don't need to work, but I still do because I love my career. He moved on with his affair girlfriend. I don't know much about them since it still pains me, but all I know is that they're still together. She contacted me in LinkedIn, telling me that since the divorce has cost him so much money, he has told her that he never wanted to get married again, nor move in together. And she blames me because I took everything. She is now pregnant, and according to her, my ex said that this wouldn't change his attitude towards moving in together or marriage. So now she is accusing me of being a thief, who is basically stealing her baby's chances of having a family. That I didn't need the money because I have a good job and everything was my ex-husband's. That I took advantage of him because he felt guilty. I haven't spoken to my ex in 5 years. I haven't even had the strength to answer him back every New Year to tell him to stop texting me Happy New Year because that's when we met. I don't know what to do. Is she right? Or should I ignore her? Now for the top comments before reading the mini update. Just block and ignore her. She played a stupid game and won a stupid prize. This is probably the best right answer, but I'm old, jaded, and just a little vicious. Personally, I'd send screenshots of her text to your ex-husband. But that's because I'm old, jaded, and not very nice. Me too, because I would have engaged in option 1 and 2. Go off and send it to him. Truth is that he probably doesn't want to marry her and is using OP as an excuse. After all, he's still contacting OP on New Year's. He doesn't sound like a catch, and neither does a fair partner. Yep, he regrets the divorce and won't get married because he's holding out hope. He gave her extra things in the divorce because he cares. If he didn't, he would have given her the bare minimum and dragged it out. So the homewrecker is blaming you for his fate. That's rich, not the a-hole. About the only thing that's rich about her. I bet you she pursued him because of his money, and now he won't marry or move in with her even after she got pregnant. Something tells me she tried to baby trap him. At least she can get hefty child support for 18 years. Not the a-hole. She expected to get the guy and all of the marital property. It's not your fault that this loony person didn't understand that marital property is half yours. Send a message on to your ex. Politely tell him that you don't appreciate his girlfriend contacting you to ask for money and to complain about their relationship status. Ask him to have a conversation with her about leaving you alone. I think she knows marital property is half. Hence, she wants to get married to him, but he won't do it. I've seen a lot of women who think this guy has a good job, a nice house, and a luxury car, and chase after him, but don't also consider that his wife of 10/20/30 years is entitled to half of everything. And the guy could end up paying child support, college costs, and/or alimony after divorce. Also, the guy and his first wife may have built a good lifestyle based on their spending/savings/investing decisions. But the second wife, who didn't work for that money or invest it slowly over time, may not have the interest or personality to add to the household wealth. That's the kind of woman who marries a guy, and then complains that he doesn't have as much money as she thought. Yeah, he has half as much money, more expenses, and the added burden of maintaining the expectations of the new wife/girlfriend. Mini update. Thank you everyone for the fast response. I was considering one of 3 options. Tell her off, tell him/forward her message to him, or ignore and block her. The majority are suggesting the latter, and I am inclined towards that too. Thanks and have a great weekend. I will try to read all your comments, but they're coming too fast. Sorry. Next story. Am I the a-hole for refusing to repropose after my fiancé lost her engagement ring? I, 29 male, proposed to my fiancé, 28 female 6 months ago with a beautiful ring that I saved up for over a year to buy. She was thrilled, and we've been happily planning our wedding since then. Last weekend, we went on a trip to the mountains for a little getaway. During one of our hikes, she realized that her engagement ring was missing. She was devastated, and we spent hours retracing our steps, but we couldn't find it. When we got back home, she asked if I could get a new ring and re-proposed to her to recreate this special moment. I told her that I understood how she felt, but buying another ring of the same quality would be financially challenging for me right now. I suggested that we could either wait until I could afford a similar ring or get a more modest ring for now and upgrade it in the future. She was upset and said that it wouldn't feel the same with a different ring and that the magic of the proposal was lost. She insisted that she wanted the moment to be recreated just as it was before. I told her that the important thing was our commitment to each other, not the ring or the proposal itself, and she accused me of not caring enough about her feelings and said that if I truly loved her, I would find a way to make it happen. Now, there's a lot of tension between us, and she's been distant ever since. I feel like I'm being practical, but she feels like I'm not valuing our engagement enough. Am I the a-hole for refusing to re-propose with a new ring under these circumstances? Not a-hole. I would be horrified if I lost the ring my fiancé got me. No way would I expect him to replace it with conditions. Would really consider who you've asked to marry you and where their priorities lay. In the future, however, I would ensure the ring. Not only replace the ring, but redo the whole proposal. Lots of main character syndrome going on here. Run, OP. She is horrible to expect any of this. Hello, the door is open. Leave while you have the chance. You just got a view of what being permanently attached to her will be like. She ought to be ashamed for caring so little about securing something so precious. Not a-hole. If you really loved me, it's a trap to try to get you to do something. Not just illogical, but counterproductive. You have actual things that you need to use your resources on, besides sentimental, non-pressing moments to recreate. This actually sounds like some sort of test to see how far she can push you. Tread carefully. I would retort back, if you really valued our engagement, then you wouldn't have lost a ring. 100%. If anyone is entitled to be angry, it's you. If she can't take care of one precious ring, how many do you have to keep buying if she keeps losing them? I am wondering if the girlfriend really liked the ring and proposal at all. Oh no, lost a ring. Do over. Seems like a great way of getting what you really want. Next story. Am I the a-hole for saying that my ex-husband was just like his father because he canceled on our daughter yet again? I'm making this fairly quick. I feel like I went a tad bit far with my comment. So me, 36 female, and my ex-husband, 38 male, were together for 6 years, married for 2 before he left me. At the time, our daughter was a year old. She was 5. There were no warning signs. I left to go do a grocery shop, came home to him and his clothes/things gone, left a note saying he was in love with a new woman and wanted a divorce. Just like that. I got absolutely no closure from that. Any calls or messages were dodged, even when they were about our daughter. Literally nothing. During our divorce, he tried to fight for full custody despite at this point not having seen her for 6 months, which was denied because he was in the military and at times constantly moving. I got full custody. He got supervision with holidays if he's not deployed. Shortly after our divorce, he married his now wife and they settled down in the city we live in. He's still in the military, but now he's on a specific base. I asked if he wanted to revise the custody since he was no longer traveling. He said no need, and he wants to take things slow. Since our divorce, he has maybe seen her 11 times, over what, 4 years? And mind you, he literally lives in the same city. Travel isn't a problem. My daughter is in therapy for this, just to process the absence/broken promises from her father. Typical I'll pick you up this weekend, only to be last second. Anyway, on to the issue. I got a call from him Friday night. He was supposed to pick our daughter up at 8 a.m. Saturday. I got a call at 1 a.m. because I was up working. And he basically says that he can't take our daughter to his place this weekend. After some back and forth, he says it's because his wife is upset with him spending time with her and that she gets jealous. Yes, jealous of a 5-year-old. Absolutely ridiculous. I've been fairly cooperative this entire time, but Jesus, I was so upset. Like a buildup of emotions, I just started yelling at him, calling him a sack of turd and a disgrace. I mentioned our daughter being in therapy, how upset she was seeing some of the other kids with dads. In her preschool, there was this dad day where the kids brought their dads to do activities with them. They had a mom day the previous week, and he promised to show, but pulled out last minute. I had to give her a sick day because she was so upset. So I really started going in on him. He gets angry and starts yelling and cussing back. Eventually, he got quiet, and I ended up saying, "You know what's really freaking funny? Our entire relationship, you made a big show about how much you hated your dad, how horrible he was to your mom and siblings, how your biggest fear was becoming like him. But honestly, the apple doesn't fall far from the tree, because you are just like him." This was said in anger. He isn't exactly like his father, but there were similarities, which was why I said it. His father cheated on his mother, abused them, and eventually left and abandoned them for another woman. Take out the abuse part, in my opinion, they're the same. He didn't say anything for a couple of seconds, said Jesus Christ, and then he just ended the call. I haven't had contact with him since then. I absolutely did not feel bad at the time. I felt like my words were justified. But the longer it waits, the more I feel like I went too far. I ended up telling my parents what I said to get some feedback, and they said it was cruel and unnecessary. So, am I the a-hole? Now for the top comments. Not the a-hole. If the deadbeat dad shoe fits. OP, you are not the a-hole. He's a terrible father. The fact your parents don't find it cruel how he treats his own daughter. To me, truth hurts, and the fact his wife is jealous of a child is gross. Yes, he is cruel to his daughter. Why are her parents not standing behind her and telling her that her ex needed to hear what an a-hole he is to their daughter? Feel so bad for the little girl. OP's ex is a huge a-hole and loser. Being civil hasn't had any impact. Maybe this will be the wake-up call he needs, so not the a-hole. But you can't let him get your daughter's hopes up anymore. Therapy is good, but the repeated disappointment just causes setbacks for her. Yeah, I've been thinking about this too. It's just draining her, and she's at a point in her life where I feel like him not being in her life full-time would make it easier for her. I've been thinking about giving him an ultimatum of signing over full rights, or getting his act together and being a father. My dad left my mom when I was 2. He tried to stick around for a couple of years after, and it was hard on everyone. I think around kindergarten he stopped completely, and honestly, it was really hard at first, but it was for the best. I remember talking to my grandma and her asking if I'd rather have just one big disappointment or constantly be disappointed, and I chose the first. It sucks, and it took until becoming a mother to come to terms with it all. How a parent chooses not to be in their kid's life, I will never understand. And I'm so sorry you and your daughter are going through this. You are definitely not the a-hole. Last story. Am I the a-hole for not allowing my girlfriend to be a stay-at-home mom, even though I could afford to? My 29 male girlfriend, 23 female Emily, and I have been dating for 4 years and have lived together since last October. She graduated from college last year and was able to get a job that paid an okay salary for an entry-level position. She didn't like the job too much, but she mentioned that it had good opportunities for promotions and would look good on her resume, so she hoped to move on to more interesting work that she is more passionate about soon. In January, my girlfriend became pregnant with a girl by accident. It wasn't planned and we considered abortion, but decided to keep the baby. We have since been preparing for the birth. We have good relationships with both my and her parents, and both sets of parents have said they would be willing to babysit our daughter for free. Recently, my girlfriend told me that she would like to quit her job after the baby is born to be a stay-at-home mom. Her reasons for doing so were, 1, she's getting very attached to our baby, even though it's not born yet, and the idea of dropping her off with a babysitter, even if that babysitter is one of our parents who we know will take good care of it, makes her want to cry. 2, her mom was a stay-at-home mom, which allowed her to have home-cooked meals every day and do lots of fun stuff that she couldn't do with a babysitter. She wants to provide the same experience for our daughter. 3, she no longer likes her job and isn't sure if she wants to continue down the same career path. She regrets her major in accounting and wishes she had majored in something she is passionate about instead of something that just makes good money. 4, I recently got a promotion to a supervisory position in my company that came with a pay raise of nearly $40,000, so I can afford to support her and our daughter. 5, she didn't say it, but one of her friends recently gave birth and became a stay-at-home mom, so I'm sure that influenced her decision. She also tried to convince me by saying I would get more intimate moments every day, now that she would have more free time and energy for it, which I admit was tempting, and that she could cook all my favorite meals and do all the chores. I said no for a few reasons. 1. We were planning to buy a house in the next couple of years, and with me being the only one working, that would set us back by years in getting one. 2. I grew up poor. During my entire childhood, I only went to the movie theater a couple of times because my parents could not afford to take me out to do fun stuff like that often. For example, I got a new pair of shoes once a year and bought my clothes from Walmart. With both of our incomes, we have been able to enjoy a very nice lifestyle. We both drive nice new cars, go shopping or to nice restaurants or the movies regularly, and have also been on some nice trips and vacations. With only one income, we would have to curtail our spending by a lot. My girlfriend brought this up, but I don't really want to. With both of us working, we can keep our current lifestyle even after the baby. There are many things I still want to do and places I want to go. And we would have to put all our life plans on hold for several years, since my income alone would not be enough. So we would have to wait until I got even more raises or saved for a long time. 3. I just don't want the pressure of being the only person to provide for my family. 4. Most people don't like their jobs. From what she told me, she mainly just does not like her boss and finds the work boring. My mom had to work a physically difficult job when I was a baby. So compared to her and many other women, my girlfriend has it easy. Sometimes you just have to suck up having a job you don't like. Also, while telling her no, I might have said a reason why she was feeling so attached to the baby was pregnancy hormones, and they would soon pass. So yeah, not my best choice of words. I mentioned this to my friends and my family. I've been told by some people that a true man provides for his family, and that I'm evil for wanting to separate a mother from her baby when I could afford to let her stay home. So am I the a-hole? If she has a major in accounting, she could get a work-from-home job keeping books for someone or something like that. She could work part-time with flexible hours while not leaving the baby. Maybe investigate this as a compromise. I think this, especially paired if they have family who can help care for the baby. I'm 100% remote work from home. My job gives 12 weeks paid maternity leave, but when I did go back, we had someone coming to the house to care for him while I worked for the next 3 months, since her own kids were out of school for the summer. It was great for my peace of mind that I could see him during the day and know she was taking good care of him. Then when he was 6 months, he started going over to her house during the day. Lol, this whole post shows how woefully unprepared you and your girl are for having a kid. Good luck, OP. With both of us working, we can keep our current lifestyle even after the baby comes. Oh, honey. Am I the a-hole for not providing for my children's half-sister? So I, female 31, have been married twice. My first marriage was to Ted. It was short-lived, but Ted and I had 2 children together, James 11 and Maggie female 10. They are close in age. Ted and I separated in 2016. In our state, you have to be legally separated a year before you got divorced, if you have children born in the marriage. 4 months out of the year separation date, Ted committed bigamy. He got remarried before we were legally divorced. It prolonged our divorce by several months. In the end, Ted was convicted of several felonies and given strict probation. I told the judge I just wanted to be divorced. The courts annulled the marriage to the second woman because it wasn't legal. Ted stayed with the second woman, Beth, for 5 or so years to my understanding, and in that time frame, they had a daughter together who is almost 5. The daughter is under the mom's last name due to them not being married, so my children with him are his only legitimate children according to state law. Ted walked out on Beth and their child for another woman. Ted is ordered to pay the minimum in child support for their child, but remains voluntarily unemployed so he can avoid payments. Ted does not claim the daughter is had with Beth. Ted has told his new girlfriend that he has only 2 children, not 3. Beth and her family believe the lies Ted told them. Ted told Beth that I took his house and his money. Ted had neither of these things. I've remarried and the home we reside in belonged to my now spouse before I married him. My children live a drastically better lifestyle than child of Beth and Ted. My ex-mother-in-law, the mom of Ted, refuses to have a relationship with her 3rd grandchild, but gives my children lavish gifts and nice things. Beth and her family say I should split things 3 ways instead of 2, so the daughter can inherit a portion of what I've been leaving my children. They say she is entitled to it because Ted is the dad to all of them. The family has asked for money, diapers, and other things, saying I have a responsibility to the child, since all of the family Ted has favor my children.
I have even been contacted by an attorney hired by the third child's maternal family who asked me to update everything so the child gets a portion. My dad died in 2019 and left me a substantial inheritance. Beth and her family want her child included in this. I feel like it's not my place to tend to a child I didn't give birth to, but I'm being called selfish because I said no. Because the child is under her mom's last name, they'd have to approach the courts to ask a judge to legitimize this child. As of right now, the child is not legally allowed to inherit anything Ted or his paternal family may have. I don't know if he's on the birth certificate. I'm guessing so because he pays child support. The judge mentioned that my children are his only legitimate children due to them being born within our marriage. So I guess he can pay support to the child still be illegitimate? My children carry his last name, which holds a lot with state law. Am I the a-hole for not providing for my children's half-sister? Edit. When Beth filed for child support, she told her attorney what Ted had told her, that I had taken everything he'd had. The attorney put in a request to have property included in the amount of support Beth would get. I guess like Ted and I sell or something. The DA in the county Beth lives in, which is like an hour away, had a summons sent out to me. I had to provide divorce documents, proof Ted had never been on the deed of my home, and a lawyer for Beth had dug around and found out about what my dad left me. The attorney tried to tell the judge that the child was entitled to a portion of all this because I had been married to Ted, but the judge shot it down. The lawyer also tried to say my children didn't carry the same last name, as Ted and I proved otherwise. I never had to go back because the judge knew they were grasping at flies, so to speak. Ted was ordered to pay Beth $52 a month, which is the minimum for one child with an unemployed parent. Beth doesn't work either. Ted works under the table to avoid giving Beth money. Now for the top comments. Not a-hole. Seriously, what the heck? I feel so sorry for the kid in all this having a total deadbeat father, but that doesn't make it your responsibility at all. Deadbeat dad and cuckoo mother. She wants her kid to have a share in OP's inheritance from her father's estate. Neither father nor OP are related to the kid. The mom is just as bad as Ted. Greedy and grasping. Not a-hole. Stop engaging with Beth and her greedy family. You have zero obligation towards her or her child. This, and report that attorney to the Bar Association for even contacting you with such a frivolous threat. Or hire an attorney to send Beth and her attorney a strongly worded letter to tell them to get the heck out of here. Asking is probably legal. Demanding? Would it be? Because the lawyer would know there were no legal grounds. Yes, I'm a lawyer. We always know. But there are those in my profession that will use scare tactics, unethically, to obtain something the client isn't entitled to gain. This lawyer is hassling OP, probably because they cannot put this on the grandparents. There is no world under which OP has to share what her kids get, gifts, money, etc., with Beth. That probably includes an inheritance from the grandparents. I don't know for certain because I don't know where OP lives. But it is probably true if her kids are seen as the only legitimate heirs. It is Ted who is responsible for all three. His parents are most likely free to pass their assets to OP's children. Next story. Am I the a-hole for ending my relationship with my girlfriend after she revealed to me that she's child-free? I, male 33, have been in a relationship with my significant other, Tara, female 32, for the past 1.5 years. I've always wanted children, and for the past weeks I've been floating the idea to Tara. When we first met, I made it abundantly clear to her that I eventually wanted children, and she said that she wanted the same. Overall, I'd say that Tara has been a fantastic significant other. She is head over heels for me, and it is partially because she has never had a relationship last longer than a few weeks. However, since I've been bringing this up recently, she seems to like avoiding the topic, or will straight up change subjects. Lately, I've even noticed how her face just drops whenever I mention the topic. Last Saturday, I brought up the idea again to her, and she then asked if we could have a frank and honest conversation. I agreed, and basically what she told me was that she didn't want children. When I asked why, she told me that she didn't want to for reasons. She then started saying things like how she lied because it's tough dating people and being child-free, etc. I asked her if there was any chance she'd change her mind, and she said she wouldn't. Surprisingly, things went pretty normal. But I was thinking about this constantly. In the following days, Tara seemed much happier and more affectionate, and started saying things like how she felt so relieved that I didn't get upset or something. Honestly though, after thinking it through and speaking with my parents, I didn't think I'd be able to continue the relationship. So Wednesday, I sat her down and told her about my feelings, and how I didn't think our relationship could continue. Tara was extremely upset, more than I had ever seen, and ended up leaving before the conversation was even over. She's been gone since then, and she's even left all her belongings at my apartment. I did, however, hear from one of her friends that she's staying with a friend who lives pretty close to us. She also stopped going to work and is spending most of her days crying and not even eating. I spoke with some of my own friends and they think I overreacted, considering that I should have expected as much, considering Tara doesn't like talking about her childhood since she had bad memories about that. Am I the a-hole? Not the a-hole. As someone who has no interest in kids, I find it difficult to understand why you would begin a committed relationship without making abundantly clear. Children is such a huge role in a relationship, and it's fair for it to be a make or break deal. I think if she told you prior to getting together and you acted like it's fine, you'd be the a-hole. Or even if she just changed her priorities this under, but she lied to you from the get-go. She said it was because she didn't think I'd stay around if she told me from the get-go. Guess I kinda proved her right, unfortunately. That's such a crappy thing to do. Like, yes, let me just lie about this major part of myself for a year and a half so I'm not alone? Huh? If she wants her wishes of being child-free respected, she needs to respect people who don't. Yeah, it sucks. Part of me is thinking maybe I should just try being child-free so I can reconcile with her. But I've always wanted kids. The whole thing just made me sad. Not the a-hole. She lied to you to manipulate you, and it's a deal breaker for you. So you're totally justified in breaking it off. It's a total breach of trust. Don't let her guilt trip you into returning. This is why dating sucks. The most amazing chemistry can be spoiled by just one pragmatic reality. If she's not had a proper relationship before, then it makes sense that she's very upset. But it's her problem now, to be honest. I would arrange for her friend to collect her things. Yeah, I started discussing that with her friends. They said they'd come by sometime next week. We'll arrange a time. The whole thing kinda sucks. Yeah, breakups do, bud. Sorry you have to deal with this. Do you have some good friends and family around? Next story. Am I the a-hole for flipping out on my fiancé in front of a crowd because he keeps taking my brand new vehicle without even telling me? My fiancé Tom has a habit of taking my stuff without asking because he feels I should be able to do the same with his stuff. He's constantly saying, "You don't have to ask, just take it. What's mine is yours," whenever I ask to use anything of his. And he expects to have the same rule applied when it comes to my belongings. I never agreed to this. In fact, I have voiced multiple times that it's rude not to ask, and have voiced irritation when he uses my stuff without asking. When it comes to small stuff, I get irritated because he never puts my stuff back where it belongs. And then I have to go on a wild goose chase to find the item because he can't remember where he put it down either. He has ADHD. For instance, he forgets all of his travel mugs in his vehicle, and instead of going to grab them, he will just take mine until all the travel mugs are in his vehicle. But honestly, the main issue is money in my vehicle, if I'm being honest. If he needs something and he doesn't have the money, he will just take my debit card without asking beforehand because he would expect me to do the same with his debit card if I need something. More recently, I bought a brand new vehicle, and there are days when I wake up in the morning and him and my vehicle are gone because he's taken my vehicle to go to the gym instead of his vehicle because mine is far better on gas. Or he went to donate his old clothing the other day and again took my vehicle. Or he went grocery shopping 4 nights ago and took my vehicle. And last night, we had a bunch of people over and one of his buddies needed to go to the store. So Tom said he would go with him and he just grabbed my vehicle keys. I told him no. He just kind of stood there staring at me. So I said, "What? You're not taking my vehicle to drive your friend around. Start asking to use my stuff because I'm getting extremely ticked off that you take my vehicle all the time. And if you have my debit card, you better leave that on a counter too, because you're not taking that either." He looked extremely embarrassed and put both my keys and my debit card on a counter and walks outside. He comes back in maybe 5 minutes later, saying his buddy decided to take off for the night, and then he went upstairs to our bedroom. Later on, when everyone else left, he said that I embarrassed him. That if it was such a big deal for him to use my stuff, then I should have brought it up prior to this. I told him I had brought it up several times, in fact, because him constantly using my stuff is really building a wall of resentment at this point. He has his own vehicle, he has his own money, he has his own means to do things, so why is he using mine? He said he lost his debit card. True, he lost it 2 days ago and is waiting for a replacement, and that he didn't feel the vehicle issue was even something to get worked up about, because I am allowed to use his vehicle whenever I want. He's given me permission, but I refuse to drive it. I've only driven it twice because I had to in the past 3 years. He says I shouldn't have embarrassed him like that I should have waited until everyone was gone to say something. But I am getting tired of saying anything. It's my stuff. Don't touch it without permission. I don't think it's a hard concept. Am I the a-hole? Now for the top comments. Not the a-hole. Your fiancé is taking your stuff without asking is not cool. Tom keeps using your new car and debit card without permission. You've told him to stop many times, but he doesn't listen. You finally called him out in front of friends when he tried to take your car again. He says you embarrassed him, but you're just setting boundaries. Your stuff, your rules. This speaks and says he never respected OP's boundaries. I wish people would be better at understanding patterns. OP is just means to an end to this selfish a-hole. He does not respect OP at all. If he did, he wouldn't be taking her things whenever it suits him, knowing well that OP would never do that to him. Her words have no meaning to him. He just does as he pleases and she keeps hoping he'll change. But he won't. This is going to be OP's life in big and small things, until she has wasted years of her life and he has sucked her dry. He is selfish and has no intention of ever not putting himself first. Not the a-hole. He only heard you this time because he felt embarrassed. He probably still didn't hear her, might be butthurt for a while and then go back to using her stuff without asking. And if she brings it up, he brings up her embarrassing him, because he still doesn't get it. Doesn't want to get it. Last story. Am I the a-hole for making a comment about a woman's body after she tried to shame me and my girlfriend? My girlfriend and I got invited to this engagement party that my friend from undergrad has. I found out later that a girl, I'll call her Erin, and I went on a few dates with in undergrad was going. Normally, this wouldn't matter at all, but after I told her I wasn't feeling a romantic spark but we could be friends, Erin flipped out on me. She would send me tons of voicemails telling me I was leading her on. I was shallow. Not sure what prompted this. Never told her I didn't like her because of her appearance, and I wouldn't find anyone else but her, etc., etc. It's been several years since undergrad, so I assumed that she would have hopefully chilled out or have forgotten about me. Fast forward to the party, me and my girlfriend are mingling and my girlfriend is very nice and friendly, so she's getting along with everyone. I run into Erin and she immediately makes a comment in a snide tone. Oh hey, I didn't know you'd be here. Almost didn't recognize you with a dad bod. I just say hello and try to ignore her, but she's kind of following me for a bit. She makes another snide comment when she saw my girlfriend from afar by saying, "She's so thin. I always knew that was your type." And I ask Erin to please leave me alone for the night, and she just stomps away. I find my girlfriend and we were hanging out and having fun until Erin comes up to us and makes a comment. Oh, Opie, who is this? My girlfriend introduces herself politely before I could say something and compliments Erin's nails. Erin doesn't even introduce herself and says in a condescending tone, "I wish I could pull off the dress you're wearing, but I think it only works for people with small boobs." I try to keep my cool because we are all way too old for this, but I became really agitated with Erin making comments about people's bodies. I snapped back and said, "I think it'd be difficult to pull off for you in the waist area. If you want to know where we got this dress, I'd be happy to send you the link in a bigger size." Erin immediately recoils. She doesn't say anything and leaves. Later that night, a few mutual friends came up to me saying they saw Erin sobbing and told them I called her fat and ruined her night. My girlfriend tells me Erin was projecting her insecurities onto us and she wasn't even mad, just sad for her. I admit it was not the most mature move I've done, but how warranted was my comment? Am I the a-hole? She can obviously dish it out, but can't take it. Perhaps you taught her a valuable lesson. It takes no more effort to be nice than it does to be a douche. Perhaps you taught her a valuable lesson. Perhaps not though. Considering she went crying to other people about how mean Opie was, she sounds like the type who thinks it's mean when done to her, but if she does it to someone else, it's just telling it like it is. Some people just lack self-awareness and empathy. They can only ever see things from their own point of view. I know someone like this. They're always only telling it like it is or only joking. But when you say something back, they're suddenly a victim. I don't have the time or the care. Bye, Felicia. Not a-hole. Hopefully you let others know she made poor comments first. But the fact that your girlfriend said she feels sorry for Erin and she's not upset, you got yourself a winner. That's why she's still the girlfriend. He's obviously not letting her go. And for Erin with her attitude, she doesn't deserve someone. Am I the a-hole for no longer making toys and furniture for my former sister-in-law after her new husband called them an embarrassment and me cheap for not paying for stuff? My brother died before his firstborn child was born, and because of this I've had an above-average involvement in my nephew's life. One thing I've always done is build him toys and furniture. It was a way of providing without the awkwardness of handing over cash. Also, between my late brother's cash and life insurance via work, a trust was set up for my nephew for about £500,000. He wasn't actually married to my sister-in-law. Now, via the lab at work, I've made him a lot of wooden or 3D printed toys, but also simple handmade electronic toys. My sister-in-law was always grateful for these, and my nephew, by all accounts, loves his custom toys. Fast forward 3 years and my former sister-in-law has gotten married. I was attending my nephew's 3rd birthday and I turned up the night before to assemble his present. It was a small climbing frame/swing set I had watched better carpenters than me in the lab make. The new husband was a little standoffish, but come to the day of the party, he was telling anyone who listened that I didn't pay or make the present. I had lackeys at work do it for free. This culminated in him calling all my presents an embarrassment, and that given my fancy job, I could afford to splash some cash. I confronted him with my former sister-in-law, and she basically confirmed that whilst the presents were appreciated, she honestly expected more direct support from me after my brother's death. My mother stepped in and reminded her my brother paid for this house, and they regularly take cash out of the trust, approximately £10,000 a year. We walked out without hearing any worthwhile response, but I continued to see my nephew without incident. 6 to 7 months go by and I'm visiting, only to be told that my former sister-in-law was pregnant with twins, and she was wondering if I could make some duplicates of items made for my nephew as they needed 2 sets. I scoffed, said she had balls asking me to make stuff after she was so ungrateful, and said I owe her unborn children very little. She got upset and explained her prior statements about my handmade gifts, and said she felt they were the kind of little things someone did as a favor, not what a family provides. That's why she's asking me now as a friend to do her a favor and manufacture duplicates. I said no again, and her husband shouted through that it didn't matter. They would just use the trust to provide for kids like it's supposed to. I retorted that it was for my nephew, and good luck accessing it for that, because the trust requires my signature to pay out. I wasn't even home before he was calling me to apologize, clearly unaware I held the reins to my late brother's money. The apology was insincere, and I asked to speak to my former sister-in-law where I confirmed again that I wouldn't be manufacturing her anything. I'll still be an uncle to my nephew, and be impartial when it comes to her accessing my nephew's trust, but her husband has burned a lot of my goodwill with this. Am I the a-hole for not doing her a favor after all that? Now for the top comments. Not the a-hole. First, my condolences on the loss of your brother. Your sister-in-law is beyond entitled. She lives in a house paid for by your late brother and benefits from a trust, and then has the gall to criticize your gift to your nephew? Outrageous! Brother knew what he was doing by setting up the trust. Smart. Not the a-hole. It was largely the insurance company, I believe. The money was mostly from life insurance via work, and the circumstances of his death, car accident deemed an unlawful death, had the responsible party's insurance paying out. One of those really morbid situations where they came around and valued my brother's worth to his child down to the pound. This is actually a big part of what inspired me to make my nephew so many things. The insurance company putting a monetary value on my brother's DIY skills, and lowballing it because he was just an electrician. Thought I'd step up since the insurance screwed her over. You're an amazing uncle and brother. I wish all kids had someone to look out for them like you do for your nephew. Not the a-hole. Sorry for your loss. Your brother was so smart to give you control over the trust for your nephew. That ensures your nephew's position is protected both financially and in this new family. Sister-in-law's new husband is bad news, and she doesn't seem to have good judgment. If you didn't have oversight on things, I bet your nephew would have been robbed and neglected by these greedy people. OP, you're not the a-hole now, and you will be not the a-hole when nephew wants to use his money, but sister-in-law wants to split it among the siblings. Not Day-Hall. But if you need a couple of nieces, my daughters would absolutely love Handmade toys. In all seriousness though, I think Handmade puts more thought and effort into your gift than just spending $50 for a piece of crap at the store. Being told repeatedly your gifts aren't welcome, and then being angry at you for not providing more of the supposed unwanted gifts, is ridiculous. And your sister-in-law's husband absolutely is being insincere. I just hope he doesn't take out his anger on your nephew, especially when the new babies are born. Next story. Am I the a-hole for refusing to contribute to my step-family? I'm 17, living with my dad, his wife, her 2 sons, and a daughter they have together. My dad's marriage to her started out as he was cheating on my mom while she was sick. She found out about it and kicked him out, but she died before a divorce could happen, so I went to live with him then. I was 10. In the last 7 years, I have done everything to just spend as much time with my other family and not get involved, and it worked. My dad lost all my respect with what he pulled, and his wife was put forever in the nothing-to-me zone when she kicked up a crap storm when my mom's funeral rolled around, which is a story we don't need to get into. But anyway, I have a part-time job. I also get some money from grandparents on occasion, and I have savings that only they can access while I'm a minor that was saved by them. So my dad lost his job because of COVID last year, and his wife was a stay-at-home mom. Things took a turn for the worse when they found a couple of leaks and mold in the house, where a lot of whatever money they had needed to go into. Now they're okay-ish, but could do with more money. They have asked me to start pitching in with money. I said no. I said I support myself with my money, and the rest goes on me getting out as soon as I turn 18. My dad's wife told me they deserve to be treated better after 7 years, and that the least I could do is accept that they are also my family, and family helps each other. Then my dad said do it for the kids. Or at least for my half-sister, since she's still a toddler and is related to me. I asked him if he really thought I was happy about his bloodline given what he did, and given that he expected me to just suck it up so he could have what he wanted, when I was a grieving 10-year-old. He told me most kids get over petty stuff like that after a year, and that we could have been a better family. And then he ranted about how much my mom sucked for getting sick and dragging us down. He's lucky I'm pretty in control of my emotions, because he pushed buttons that are very sensitive. I told him he was the one who brought things down, and I told him I didn't get to crap on someone for trying to survive, and how dare he expect that to win me over. But the fact still remains things are pretty rough right now, and there is a 3-year-old involved, as well as a 14 and 15-year-old. So let me know, am I the a-hole? Not the a-hole. It's not your job to support the household, it's theirs. Right? Stepmom can't afford the luxury of being a stay-at-home mom at the moment. She needs to get her butt up, get a job and stop harassing Opie. Meanwhile, Dad can get a job at any fast food place to tie the family over. Not the a-hole. Not the a-hole. Absolutely not the a-hole. It does suck that they're having such a rough circumstances right now, especially for the children involved. But you know who else had rough circumstances with the child involved? Your mother. Did your father and his wife and the kids help then? Return the favor. Give them as much help and support now that they did then. Can you stay with your grandparents? I was about to say this very thing. Could Opie move in with the grandparents? Agreed. Opie is 17. They will be out and on their own very shortly. Grandparents don't need to do any raising. Not the a-hole. I was an adult, but my sperm donor also was cheating on my mom while she was dying and she didn't have time to divorce him. I say this from the bottom of my heart. Screw your dad. Get out as soon as you can and never look back. Any person who can do what he did is really screwed. I keep a bail money account for the day of my sperm donor's funeral, so I can walk up in the middle and piss on his casket. Just check your local laws and make sure that won't land you on an offender registry. Otherwise, I support this 100%. Save the pee in a jar over the days leading up to his funeral and let it ferment a bit, and then tip that over him. Now for the next story. Am I the a-hole for kicking out my wife's ex-in-laws during our pool party? My wife Ari was married back when we were only friends, and she and her husband Eric were trying to have a baby. They weren't successful, and one day they approached me asking if I'd be willing to be a sperm donor for them. I agreed to it after some time to think, because she was one of my closest friends and wanted to help them out. We talked about my role being the fun uncle type and being there for important stuff. She got pregnant and had my son John. She and Eric separated when John was a few months old, but he was still involved. But when he was 7 months old, Eric passed away. Ari struggled a lot as a single mom, and so I wanted to help her out more. Slowly, little by little, I got to be more involved helping take care of him. And 4 years later, I fell in love with Ari and we pursued a romantic relationship. Eric's family was still involved in John's life, and they were outraged when they found out about us. His sister in particular, who's like 35 by the way, started spreading rumors that we were having an affair when she got pregnant with John, and tricked Eric into letting me be a sperm donor to cover it up. It was pretty wild. They just saw it as Eric committing a massive betrayal to Eric's memory, starting a relationship with the biological father of their child, even though they were already going to divorce. I had to cut it off for a while. Then we got married and have another baby on the way. Last year, Eric's family wanted to come around again to see John, 7. We talked it over and agreed to it. It mattered to us that he still gets to have his grandparents around, so we hoped it would work out. Due to COVID, we only saw them a handful of times, but they were invited to our pool party. Sometime during the party, I heard some arguing and my wife went back into our house crying. I took them into the house and asked ex-mother-in-law what happened, and she looked furious. So the topic of John's school came up. Ex-mother-in-law was trying to convince Ari to send John to the same school Eric did, and they had a disagreement. This led to the topic of Eric being brought up, and how Ari keeps finding more ways to dishonor his memory. Knowing her, I'm sure it was more she said to make Ari that upset. I was so mad that I told them they needed to leave right now. They left through the front so party guests in the back wouldn't see, but they were still furious at being kicked out. And really think I was a nahal for making them leave over a disagreement like that. I'm just not happy with them at all, and neither is Ari. But still wonder if I was a nahal for my reaction. Now for the comments. Not nahal. I mean, you're asking whether you are a nahal for telling people to leave after they insult your wife and make her cry? Obviously not. Also, it's probably not good for John to be around such boorish people. Horrible family members often try to play this woe is me game. A good exercise is to ask yourself, what would you do if a random stranger walked into your home and insulted your wife? Would you let them hang around and have a burger? Time to consider cutting that toxicity out of your family's life, because it does not sound like it's getting better. Not nahal. They don't get to judge and be rude to your situation. Also, it's your home, so it's your rules. You guys gave them another shot to come back into your lives on good terms, and they blew it. You handled it appropriately though. Let them slip away from the front door so no one sees. It saves them public humiliation, which would have escalated it more. You stuck up for yourself, your children, and your wife. Family first, my man. And you've put them ahead over everything like a great father and husband. The family seems to be abusive, manipulative, and mind-numbing. Get them out now before they become a larger headache. We're talking about it. Aside from their issues with us, they really are great with John. But at the same time, we don't want them filling his head with anything. Not nahal. Because of course you, your wife, and your son deserve to be respected, especially in your own home. Legally take the steps to be identified as John's father. Speak to a good family lawyer before Rex's in-laws go take you to court on the basis of grandparents' rights. Better to be safe than sorry, and to have all the information you need about what to do before it gets to that point. Yes, we went through the proper channels for me to become his legal father. Last story is titled, Am I the a-hole for telling my wife's siblings to grow up during my divorce with their sister? Me, male 30, and my wife, female 34, are getting a divorce. Luckily, it's not malicious and toxic. We have simply grown apart and think our daughter will be happier growing up with 2 individually happy parents versus 2 resentful parents under the same roof. It's still hard though. It's sad and it's stressful for both of us. My wife went to stay with her dad, and her 2 siblings visited. Her sister's very negative and very angry. She always starts some kind of argument. Her brother is the opposite, a kind soul, very funny and gentle man. Then she calls me in tears and says they're all being horrible. Apparently the first thing they did was try and convince her that we were making a mistake, and clearly hadn't thought this through. When my wife grew defensive, her sister said she's clearly not in a good state of mind, duh, and that she should leave because she was being toxic. The brother said nothing, and neither did her dad. They just let it happen, and now they're all being weird and aloof with her, during a time when she needs them most, and drove 6 hours to see them, and instead she's driving back in tears. I called her sister and let rip. I said, how is it possible that she goes to see you because of the divorce we're getting, and yet she's calling me for comfort because you're being nasty? I was angry. Her sister said this has nothing to do with me. Then her brother called me, and I said, how can you be a part in making her feel so awful after all she's done for you all? I told him it's pathetic, and I told them both that they need to grow up and be there for their sister when she needs them, because she's always there for them, no questions asked. My wife isn't angry at me, but she's upset at the situation, and her dad sends me a seething text telling me to leave his kids alone. I feel like an a-hole, but I also feel that they were being total a-holes. Maybe everyone sucks here. I would just appreciate an outsider's perspective. Not an a-hole. You're probably not the best source for that message, but goddamn if you weren't 100% right. Lol, when the guy divorcing your sister is more considerate of her feelings than you. OP, I commend you for how you well stood up for your soon-to-be ex. I wish more divorces were this amicable. Not an a-hole. It seems very distasteful for them to negatively criticize your soon-to-be ex instead of comforting her during this time. All in all, it seems like you still really care about each other due to you standing up for her in this situation and her reaching out to you for comfort. I would be sure you're actually ready for the divorce. We are very good friends, but that's all at this point. It's platonic, not romantic. We care for each other and always will. Not an a-hole. It's sad that you had to have her back because her own family was being hurtful. I'm thankful it isn't a resentful, toxic divorce, because she clearly doesn't have much support on their end. Not an a-hole, although I'm not sure it was a good idea. I doubt it will make things better for her. They're more interested in enabling her sister's behavior than caring for your ex-wife, and she will be the one who has to deal with them in person. Does she have any friends she could stay with? Could you help her move to a more supportive atmosphere? Am I the a-hole for exposing my son's future stepdad and causing my son to resent him? My son is 17 and I co-parent with my ex-wife, and I'm not married nor I am seeing anyone. I'm just focusing on work and providing for my son. My ex-wife, however, so far dated 3 guys who are just not nice. The third one, Anthony or Tony, is a somewhat decent guy, but can act self-centered and is selfish in a lot of ways. He stated that he's not interested in being in a competition to win my son over, and just wanted to be a positive role model in his life. I said, why not, as long as he's bringing positive influence. I work in a highly demanding job, and so I'm mostly absent from holidays, weekends, birthdays, etc. It's unfortunate, but my son understands and we're close enough spiritually, so that makes up for the distance. His birthday was days ago. I couldn't attend, but I already sent him a pretty cool, a bit expensive, wristwatch, and it was supposed to arrive 2 days before his birthday. I called my son to ask if he received it yet, and he said no. I was so confused that I went to my ex-wife's house to inquire about this matter. She said they didn't receive anything, and Tony said the store must have gotten the wrong address, and then suggested I just buy another watch from another store if I had no time and had work to take care of. I checked with the online store from which I bought the watch, and they assured me that the watch was received, and showed me proof which was a signature allegedly from my ex's brother. My ex's brother swore he didn't receive anything, nor was at his sister's house at the time. So I had a talk with a person who delivered the watch, and he described the guy at 5'4", with short hair and clean-shaven face, wearing red t-shirt who said he was my ex's brother. I figured it was actually Tony, so I told my ex and she and him denied it. I demanded to check the front door cam, and there he was, taking the watch and re-entering the house. My ex and my son were shocked. I mumbled, so much for a positive role model. Tony started stuttering, then said he was just keeping it for my son till his birthday. My son said he saw him wearing a new watch when going out, but couldn't outright confront him, and Tony obviously wasn't planning on giving it. I said he was planning to steal my gift for my son, and he swore this wasn't the case, but my son said he won't speak to him anymore. My ex said I just drove a wedge between my son and his stepdad by unjustly accusing him of stealing the watch. It now made my son hate him when I should have discussed this privately. I said my son deserves to know what his future stepdad did, and that he should have given the watch to my son the minute he received it. They still insisted he was just keeping it. I later learned my son no longer wanted to spend his birthday with his stepdad and went to his grandparents to celebrate. My ex was livid, saying Tony got excluded from our son's birthday, and it's because of me, and demanded I clear the confusion. Am I the a-hole? Now for the top comments. Not the a-hole. How pathetic of a man to steal a birthday gift from a teenager. Even more pathetic that the mom is so desperate for a man that she let him get away with it and blamed Opie. The mom is so delusional that she really believed this lie Tony told about keeping the son's watch to give him later. Like, who are you to keep the gift? Who are you to decide when your stepson gets his gift from his father? What a weirdo. Got caught stealing, and now the ex-wife blames the father for exposing her loser new husband? Not Dayhole. The guy stole your son's gift for himself. You did not drive a wedge between him and your son. He did that all by himself. Did you really think this would not get out? Your wife seems to be deep in denial if she really believes the story that her boyfriend was just keeping it for him, especially since you already told your son about the gift. The guy got caught in a series of repeated lies, including forging his brother's signature and lying it had gotten delivered. This wedge between him and your son is of his own making, because he is a thief. Yep. If he had been genuinely just keeping it for the son, he had like half a dozen opportunities to say, "Oh hey, yep, don't worry, I've got it." And he wouldn't have been wearing it. Even if he opened it, which he shouldn't have worn it. It was probably addressed to the son, so he not only opened it, he kept it and wore it. This dude deserves no consideration in trying to preserve his image to the son. He's a thief and a liar. They insisted he was just keeping it. Did you ask to see it? If it was in the original packaging and it opened, they might have a case. If not, then they can't really deny they were just keeping it for your son. And if they were doing that, what's with the lying and stuff? Why wouldn't he just let you know he was holding on to it till your birthday? In addition, Tony said the store must have gotten the wrong address and suggested I just buy another watch from another store. Why would he suggest you buy another one if he was just holding on to it? I can't believe your ex is in so much denial about all these obvious things that shows that Tony is just a lying thief. Next story. Am I the a-hole for telling my sister it's not my fault she didn't want for her kids to be happy about her remarrying? My sister got married 2 weeks ago today. She lost her first husband 18 months ago to cancer. They had my nephew Tyler 11 and my niece Kaylee 10 together. Tyler and Kaylee have been lost since their dad died, and became even more lost when they learned their mom was dating again 9 months later. My sister did a lot of grieving before her late husband died, so nobody was too surprised when she was ready to find someone fast. We all kinda thought she might wait longer to talk marriage though. But after 4 months, she was engaged, and the kids were not okay. They have cried on my shoulder several times because they don't get how their mom could get married again, and they don't get what they're supposed to like about the new guy. My nephew even said he doesn't get how he's supposed to love him and think of him as a new dad, or even a new member of the family, when their family was so good before, and now they'll never have a good family again. I have reassured them the best I can. My sister and I lost our brother years ago, and I know the scars a loss leaves. But since I never lost a parent, it's hard. I was in charge of the kids at my sister's wedding, and it was rough. Both of them walked away from the ceremony to stand outside and cry, and my sister was pissed at me about it because I was supposed to keep them in the wedding and stop them from making a big deal out of it. But I couldn't make them stop crying. All I could do was comfort them and try to cheer them up somehow, but man, it's hard. Those kids are devastated by the marriage, but I mean they are in so much pain because of it. My sister confronted me a few days after the wedding and told me I should have done more. That I let the kids spoil the day and make a scene because everyone there heard them crying and saw them leave. She said that as her brother, I should have worked to make her day perfect, and that I need to be more supportive of her and help the kids accept the changes and be happy for her and the family. I told her it's not my fault she didn't wait for the kids to be happy about her remarrying, and I don't have a magic wand to make them happy. That they need therapy and time. She called me unsupportive, judgmental of her decision, and said I lacked compassion for her loss, her grief, and her need for adult love. Am I the a-hole? Not the a-hole. She has made a new relationship a priority over her kids, them dealing with her grief. The fact that she's a grown-up and did her grieving long before her husband passed away doesn't mean the kids did. There is something seriously wrong with her priorities if she thinks her kids made a scene and caring about having a perfect day, rather than the fact her kids are having such a hard time with everything. What she did has won the game of who's going to the retirement home. I don't understand how someone doesn't get their kids' approval when if they decide to marry someone. Even my narcissistic mother asked me if there were any grievances first. Not the a-hole. The kids need therapy. She's absolutely prioritizing herself over them, and it's oof. They're gonna resent her and hate her husband in no time. I agree they need therapy to help them cope with everything that's going on. But I hope Opie and his family explain to sister that therapy won't necessarily fix their feelings about her relationship or with her and stepdad. The aim should be to get the kids as mentally well, resilient, and stable as possible. But too many AITA posters parents seem to think therapy will be a magic wand to get the kids to accept the new dynamic. I wouldn't even have gone to the wedding. She has the right to get remarried, as you say. She started grieving before her husband died. But getting remarried 18 months later when the kids are still grieving and are vocal about how they're struggling with everything, she's going to be hated by her kids. And as soon as they're going to be able to, they're going to leave and cut ties with her. She could have had adult love and still respected her kids in the time they need to grieve their father. I really don't get people like that. She's mad about them crying for one day, but that's nothing compared to a lifetime of resentment the kids will have for her and her new husband. Next story is titled, Am I the a-hole for calling my husband out for lying about our baby's gender? My husband, male 31 and I, female 29, are expecting our first child together. We plan to have 3, by the way. Ever since I got pregnant, my husband's been saying he wanted our first child to be a boy. I don't know why. He never cared in the past. It is the type to treat everyone equally. But his reason was that he was the first child, boy, in the family, and so it'd be lovely if we followed the tradition. I didn't take it seriously, because honestly that's ridiculous, but harmless, so why not let him just express his wishes? But later found out he was telling the family it was going to be a boy, and that he had a hunch and he was 100% certain and positive about it. He kept saying the same thing over and over that I had to tell him to slow down, because even if he didn't know he was going over the top, he was still giving the family false hopes. He promised to stop, but still says he had a strong hunch that I'll see that he was right all along. We found out our baby's gender this past week, and it's a girl. My husband admittedly seemed a bit upset, but he said it's because this was not what he was expecting. Even said he wasn't sure about the ultrasound results, which is a bit much. Anyway, we got home and he stayed on his phone for hours. Then in the evening, I started getting calls from family congratulating us for the baby boy. I felt confused, so I asked my mother-in-law how she found out, and she said my husband made the announcement on his Facebook. I was upset, so I checked his page with my phone and saw it. I wanted to talk to him about his lie, but first I made an announcement on my Facebook and announced that it's a girl, then called my husband out for lying to his entire side of the family. He apparently saw it instantly and came into the room looking angry, asking what I was doing. I asked why I lied to his family about our baby's gender. I decided it was just a temporary lie, till it could slowly get them to think it'll be a girl. I said this was illogical and it'd fair for our daughter. His phone rang, but he freaked out, demanding I take the post down because his family are beginning to see it and are calling. I refused, but he got more pissed, saying we should be discussing this privately, not calling each other out on social media for everyone to see. He told me to take it down, but not until it takes us down, which he called petty and passive-aggressive. Then he stormed off, saying he won't be answering anyone's calls, after I sent them to harass him with what I posted on my Facebook instead of talking to him privately. Am I the a-hole? Wow. Red flags. Not the a-hole. I hope your child grows up loved. This is incredibly weird behavior. I'm so sorry. I hope your daughter never finds out he acted this way. He may need counseling, honestly. I don't even need to vote. You and literally everyone else in the world knows your husband is being delusional, ridiculous, narcissistic, and completely unreasonable. My hopes for him as a father are not high, and this is a huge red flag for your relationship. But his first reason was that he was the first child, boy, in the family, and so it'd be lovely if we followed the tradition. Someone should have explained to him that's not how genetics work. Not the a-hole. He's acting like a child on so many levels here. Openly expressing disappointment about his unborn baby sex. Setting his family up with false expectations. Going behind your back. Doubling down on his first silly lie. Getting mad at you for telling the truth. He's got a long way to go in learning to be an adult, let alone a husband or father. Husband goes behind Opie's back to lie to his entire family, and probably a bunch of other people. Also, husband, I can't believe you'd go behind my back. He also posted on social media, but doesn't want it all in social media. Her husband is giving me a headache. Last story. Am I the a-hole for immediately leaving home when my parents lied to me? My brother Aiden, 20 male, and I, 22 female, have not spoken to each other in over 5 years. These years of silence from his end was because, as my father quotes, I kept making fun of him. Tardiness for school, spending choices, disorganized planning, etc. This is very biased because it is from my point of view, but it doesn't take away the fact that I still hurt him and it was my fault. However, I don't think it's fair to say that I was the sole contributor to this estranged relationship. There have been many instances where Aiden has acted out and said/done some hurtful things to me as well. My short height, body hair, driving skills. I have accepted my part in that I was a terrible person and older sister, so I tried to reach out several times within those 5 years to reconcile, but Aiden continued to ignore me, which is understandable. Since then, I left things as they were and tried to move forward with my own life. For the past 2 years, I usually drive home frequently from college to visit. But I finally realized the reason I was unhappy coming home was because 1, the lingering tension and unresolved conflict with Aiden made things difficult, and 2, I was still expected to clean up after him despite the fact that there was no sense of common decency from him towards me, even if I truly deserved it. Early this school year, I vocalized my displeasure with my parents, that if Aiden came home to visit from college, I would not be doing so. It was insulting to me that letting Aiden piggyback off the housework I did felt like I had no self-respect for myself, especially when he has chosen to no longer speak to me and would resort to glaring/sneering instead. So either we visited home separately or if we both came home together, I would not help around the house for the duration that he was staying. I was firm in my stance, so my parents seemed to leave me be. Come this weekend, about a month and a half into the semester, I first called prior to confirm I would be visiting before I drove up. Just 15 minutes after bringing in my belongings, Aiden comes out of your room with plates of food and drops them in the sink, not before rolling his eyes at me and going back in. A rough back and forth occurred. My parents told me I was being a selfish coward, and that I needed to learn to deal with living near each other instead of breaking the family apart. I countered that Aiden and I never resolved our personal issues, and I was no longer willing to live near someone who wasn't willing to give me the bare minimum. I gathered my things and immediately drove back to my apartment, ignoring calls and voicemails. So guys, am I the a-hole? Not the a-hole, but your parents aren't better than your brother. Even worse. They let your relationship become that bad as teenagers, and now disrespect your stance and wishes. Means they disrespect you as a person, and this can't be fixed by an apology. Now they blame you for the situation they enabled over years. They sound like a complete parental failure. Sorry. Somehow I can see who's the favorite child. Not the a-hole. But your parents are for letting their children's relationship get to the point where they weren't speaking even at age 15 and 17. You needed family therapy about a decade ago, and they were remiss for not getting on it. It sounds like you both made fun of one another in a generalized sibling way. Aiden decided to be done with you forever, and your parents are enforcing sexist chore expectations on you in his favor, despite the fact he's trying to pretend you don't exist. I wouldn't blame you for not going home when he's there, even if he were speaking to you, if you were expected to clean up after a 20-year-old man. They have hands and stuff, usually. He's a 20-year-old male. I guess his hands are tired from jerking off all day. Hope he's definitely not a-hole, though.